Turns out there's a special kind of confidence that comes with giving your wife of 12 years an ultimatum about your affair. And an even more special kind of panic when you realize she's been playing chess while you were playing checkers. Let me paint you a picture. Monday night, October 14th, 9:47 p.m. I'm folding laundry in our perfectly decorated Westfield, New Jersey living room when Barrett strolls in like he's about to deliver a TED Talk on how to destroy your marriage in one conversation. The man actually loosened his tie, his real estate agent tie that I've been ironing for 12 years, and cleared his throat like he was about to announce quarterly earnings. "Tess," he says, using that patronizing tone usually reserved for explaining the mortgage process to first-time homebuyers. "We need to talk." Now I've been married long enough to know that "we need to talk" translates to "I've already made a decision, and I'm about to make it your problem." But I played along, setting down Macy's soccer uniform and giving him my full attention. Because that's what good wives do, right? We listen. We accommodate. We pretend we don't notice when our husband's late client meetings started happening 3 times a week at the exact same time our neighbor Celeste Morrison starts posting cryptic Instagram stories about deserving happiness. "I'm in love with Celeste," Barrett announced, like he was revealing the weather forecast. "I have been for 6 months. I want to be with her, but I also don't want to hurt you or the kids unnecessarily." The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of this man to frame his affair as a considerate gesture. But here's where it gets really rich. Barrett, my husband who can't remember to replace the toilet paper roll but apparently has a photographic memory for affair logistics, then delivered his masterstroke. "I'm giving you 24 hours to think about it. You can either accept that I need Celeste in my life and we figure out how to make this work as a family, or we get divorced. Your choice. My choice." How generous. What Barrett didn't know, what this absolute walnut of a human being couldn't possibly fathom, was that I'd been collecting evidence like a suburban Sherlock Holmes for 2 solid weeks. See, Celeste might be great at sneaking around, but she's terrible at social media OPSEC. Who posts Instagram stories from inside someone else's car? Who geotags the Motel 6 on Route 22 at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday? Who uses song lyrics like "Finally found my soulmate" as captions when your husband follows your account? Amateur hour. Absolute amateur hour. While Barrett was delivering his ultimatum with the confidence of a man who thought he held all the cards, I was mentally reviewing the comprehensive file I'd already compiled. Screenshots of their text conversations that I'd retrieved from our shared cloud storage. Photos of them at that dingy motel. Credit card statements showing charges at jewelry stores I'd never seen. Even the receipt from the lingerie shop, because apparently buying your mistress underwear on the joint credit card is what passes for romance these days. But the real kicker? The absolute crown jewel of Barrett's stupidity? He picked the wrong neighbor to have an affair with. You see, Marshall Morrison, Celeste's husband who lives 3 houses down in our cozy little Westfield subdivision, isn't just any regular suburban dad coaching Little League and grilling burgers on weekends. Marshall Morrison is a divorce attorney. Not just any divorce attorney, but one of those sharks who specializes in high-asset divorces and custody battles. The kind of lawyer who turns cheating spouses into financial footnotes. And Marshall Morrison had no idea his wife was cheating. Yet. 24 hours, Barrett repeated, checking his watch like he was timing a business presentation. "I need an answer by tomorrow night." I looked at my husband. Really looked at him, standing there in our living room surrounded by family photos and kids' artwork, demanding I accept his betrayal like it was a minor schedule adjustment. This man who I'd supported through real estate licensing, who I'd comforted through his father's death, who I'd built a life with in this perfect suburban bubble. "Okay," I said simply. "I'll think about it." Barrett looked almost disappointed by my calm response. I think he was expecting tears. Maybe some begging. Drama that would make him feel important, validate his narrative about being trapped in a loveless marriage. Instead, he got a wife who simply nodded and went back to folding laundry. What he didn't see was the slight smile tugging at the corner of my mouth as I folded Knox's soccer jersey. Because while Barrett was giving me 24 hours to process his betrayal, I'd already spent the last 2 weeks processing something much more interesting. exactly how to destroy both their lives with surgical precision. The man wanted to play hardball? Fine. But he should have checked if I knew the rules first. 24 hours. What Barrett didn't realize was that 24 hours was about 23 and a half hours more than I needed to end this charade. Because tomorrow morning at exactly 6 a.m., Marshall Morrison was going to get the wake-up call of his life. And Barrett? Barrett was about to learn the hard way that ultimatums only work when you're not married to someone who's been 3 steps ahead of you for weeks. Tuesday morning arrived with all the suburban pleasantness of a Hallmark movie, if Hallmark movies featured marriage-destroying bombshells and enough passive aggression to power the entire Westfield school district. Barrett bounded downstairs at 7 a.m., looking like a man who'd slept the peaceful sleep of someone who'd successfully shifted all his problems onto his wife's shoulders. He even hummed while pouring his coffee, which was rich considering the man usually moved through our morning routine with the enthusiasm of someone attending his own funeral. "Morning, Tess," he said, actually kissing my forehead like we were still playing house. "Sleep well?" I was packing Macy and Knox's lunches, same routine I'd been doing for 5 years, but today felt different. Today felt like the last time I'd be doing it as Barrett Walker's wife. "Like a baby," I replied. Which was technically true if babies spent the night drafting devastating email attachments and practicing innocent facial expressions in bathroom mirrors. The kids thundered down the stairs. Knox in his rumpled school uniform because the child treats getting dressed like an Olympic sport, and Macy already stress-eating cereal because she had a math test. Normal Tuesday morning chaos in the Walker household, except their father had just nuked their family stability, and their mother was about to return the favor. "Dad, can you drive us today?" Macy asked through a mouthful of Lucky Charms. "Mom always makes us leave too early." "Can't today, sweetheart," Barrett said, ruffling her hair with the casual affection of a man who had no idea he was about to become a weekend dad. "Big client meeting." Right, big client meeting. Was that what we were calling it now? I watched Barrett grab his briefcase. The same briefcase where I'd found Celeste's love notes tucked behind his business cards like some twisted version of a treasure hunt. The man had the organizational skills of a toddler but somehow managed to keep an affair running for 6 months. Life's funny like that. "I'll be home late tonight," he announced, straightening his tie. "That client meeting might run long." "Of course it will," I said sweetly, handing him his travel mug. "These important meetings always do." Barrett paused for just a second, something flickering behind his eyes like maybe, just maybe, he was starting to realize that his wife's sudden compliance was about as genuine as a $3 bill. But then Macy spilled juice on her uniform, and Knox couldn't find his backpack, and the moment passed in the beautiful chaos of family life, the family life he'd just chosen to blow up. After Barrett left for his client meeting, which I knew was actually a 9 a.m. coffee date with Celeste at that trendy place downtown where she likes to post aesthetic latte photos, I got the kids off to school and settled in for the most productive morning of my life. Step 1. Final review of my evidence file. Screenshots organized chronologically. Credit card statements highlighted in yellow. Photos printed in high resolution because nothing says your marriage is over, like crystal clear images of your spouse's betrayal. I'd even created a timeline, because if you're going to destroy someone's life, you might as well be thorough about it. Step 2. Craft the perfect email to Marshall Morrison. This wasn't just any email. This was the email equivalent of a surgical strike, designed to deliver maximum impact with minimum emotion. No hysterics, no desperate wife dramatics, just cold, hard facts presented by one suburban parent to another. "Marshall," I typed, "I believe there are some things about your wife Celeste that you should be aware of. I've attached documentation that I think you'll find concerning. As a fellow parent in this community, I felt you deserved to know. Please contact me if you need any clarification. Best regards, Tessa Walker. Professional. Devastating. Perfect." The attachments were the real masterpiece. 43 screenshots, 12 photos, 8 credit card statements, and a detailed timeline that would make the FBI jealous. Everything organized in folders labeled with military precision: communications, financial evidence, photographic documentation, and my personal favorite, motel receipts. Step 3. Schedule the email for 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, exactly 24 hours after Barrett's ultimatum, just as he'd be sitting down for his morning coffee, probably congratulating himself on his brilliant manipulation tactics. But here's where it gets really beautiful. While I was orchestrating the complete destruction of Barrett and Celeste's little fantasy, our neighbor drama was providing its own entertainment. Around 10 a.m., I decided to take a little walk around the neighborhood. Get some fresh air, clear my head. Definitely not conduct surveillance on my cheating husband and his mistress. And what do I see parked in Celeste's driveway? Barrett's car, at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, during his big client meeting. The sheer stupidity was almost artistic. Here I am, potentially discovering their affair for the first time, and these two geniuses are conducting their business in broad daylight 3 houses away from where their children walk to the school bus. I pulled out my phone and snapped a quick photo. Just Barrett's distinctive BMW in Celeste's driveway. Timestamp clearly visible. Evidence item 44 for Marshall's growing collection. 20 minutes later, Barrett's car was gone, and Celeste emerged looking like she'd been thoroughly meeting. Hair slightly messed, that post-satisfaction glow that I used to recognize on my own face, back when my husband actually came home to me instead of stepping out on me. She saw me across the street and actually waved. At the wife of the man she'd been screwing for 6 months. The audacity was almost admirable. Almost. "Hi, Tessa," she called out, all smiles and suburban friendliness. "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" "Gorgeous," I replied, giving her my brightest smile. Perfect day for new beginnings. If she caught the double meaning, she didn't show it. Celeste Morrison was many things. Beautiful, charming, apparently good enough in bed to convince my husband to risk his family. But sharp wasn't one of them. As I walked back toward my house, I couldn't help but think about timing. In less than 20 hours, Marshall Morrison would be reading my carefully crafted email over his morning coffee. In less than 20 hours, Barrett would be getting the phone call that would end his affair, his marriage, and probably his standing in our tight-knit suburban community. But for now, for these last precious hours of ignorance, Barrett and Celeste could keep playing their little game. They could keep thinking they were smarter than everyone else, that they'd found some loophole in marriage and morality that the rest of us were too stupid to discover. Because tomorrow morning, when Marshall Morrison, divorce attorney extraordinaire, opened his email and saw exactly what his wife had been doing, Barrett's 24-hour ultimatum was going to seem like the cutest thing in the world. Karma, as it turns out, has perfect timing. Tuesday evening arrived with all the suburban normalcy of a family sitcom, except the laugh track was playing in my head, and the punchline was going to be devastating. Barrett came home at 6:30 p.m. looking like a man who'd spent the day making difficult decisions about his future, which technically he had. He just had no idea how those decisions were about to backfire in the most spectacular way possible. "Kids," he announced over dinner, "your mom and I need to have a grown-up conversation after you go to bed." Macy looked up from her spaghetti with the kind of 10-year-old intuition that cuts through adult bullshit like a laser. "Are you getting divorced?" Knox, 7 and blissfully unaware of adult complications, just asked if he could have more garlic bread. "We're just talking, sweetheart," I said, giving Macy what I hoped was a reassuring smile. Sometimes grown-ups need to discuss boring adult stuff. Barrett shot me a grateful look, probably thinking I was already falling in line with his new reality. Sweet, naive Barrett. If he only knew that by tomorrow morning, boring adult stuff was going to include custody agreements and asset division. After the kids were tucked in, Knox with his dinosaur stories, Macy with her chapter book and a promise that everything would be okay, Barrett and I settled in the living room for what he clearly thought would be my surrender. "So," he said, sitting across from me like we were about to negotiate a business contract, "have you thought about what I said?" I had thought about it. I'd thought about it while scheduling my devastating email to Marshall. I'd thought about it while researching New Jersey divorce laws. I'd thought about it while calculating exactly how much Barrett stood to lose when this whole thing exploded. "I have," I said carefully, "but I need to understand something first. When you say you want Celeste in your life, what exactly does that look like?" Barrett's face lit up like I'd just asked him to describe his favorite hobby, which I guess I had. "Well, Obviously, she'd leave Marshall, he said, leaning forward with the enthusiasm of someone outlining a vacation itinerary. We've talked about this extensively. She's not happy in her marriage either. Marshall works all the time. He's emotionally unavailable. He doesn't appreciate her. Right. Marshall Morrison, successful divorce attorney, who provides a beautiful home in an exclusive neighborhood and apparently commits the unforgivable sin of working hard to maintain their lifestyle. What a monster. And then what? I asked. She moves in here? With her kids? Eventually, yes. We'd blend our families. The kids would adjust. Kids are resilient. And you... Barrett paused, clearly having reached the part of his fantasy where he had to figure out what to do with his current wife. You could find someone who makes you happy too. Someone who appreciates you the way you deserve. The condescension was breathtaking. This man was literally telling me I should be grateful for his affair, because it would free me up to find someone better. The psychological gymnastics required to frame adultery as a gift to your spouse was Olympic level. That's very thoughtful of you, I said. But what about the practical stuff? Money? Custody? The house? Barrett waved his hand dismissively. We'll figure it out. Divorce doesn't have to be ugly if everyone's mature about it. Mature about it. This from the man who'd been sneaking around for 6 months like a teenager. And you've discussed all this with Celeste? Of course. We've planned everything. She's ready to leave Marshall. She just needs to know you're okay with this before she makes her move. There it was. The missing piece I'd been wondering about. Celeste was waiting for my blessing before she blew up her own marriage. How considerate. Barrett, I said slowly. Can I ask you something? When did you know you loved her? His whole demeanor softened, and for a moment I saw the man I'd married 12 years ago. Remember that block party in April? When you were sick with that terrible flu and couldn't go? I remembered. I'd been bedridden for 3 days with what felt like the plague, and Barrett had taken the kids to Celeste's neighborhood barbecue. She took care of everything, Barrett continued. Made sure Macy and Knox were fed, played games with them, even helped them with the craft station. And afterward, she brought soup over for you. Do you remember? I did remember. Celeste showing up at our door with homemade chicken soup and a soft smile, asking if there was anything else she could do to help. I'd been so grateful for the kindness. That's when I knew, Barrett said. She's everything I need, Tess. She's warm, caring, spontaneous. She makes me feel alive again. And there it was, the knife twisted just right. Barrett had fallen in love with Celeste while she was taking care of his sick wife and children. The woman had seduced my husband by being nice to my kids and bringing me soup. The betrayal was so complete, so thorough, that I almost had to admire the artistry of it. I see, I said. And you really think Marshall will just let her go? Barrett's confidence faltered slightly. Marshall's focused on his career. Honestly, I think he'll be relieved. Celeste says he barely notices when she's there anyway. Oh, Barrett. Sweet, delusional Barrett. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Marshall Morrison wasn't just some workaholic husband who'd shrug off his wife's affair. Marshall Morrison was a divorce attorney who'd built his career on destroying cheating spouses in court. The man specialized in making affairs as expensive as possible. And in less than 12 hours, he was going to discover that his wife had been cheating with the neighbor who lived 3 houses down. Okay, I said finally. I'll accept it. Barrett's relief was immediate and overwhelming. He actually slumped in his chair like he'd been holding his breath for 24 hours. Really? You're okay with this? I want you to be happy, I said, which was true in a way. I did want Barrett to be happy. Right up until the moment Marshall Morrison destroyed his life. Thank you, Tess. I know this isn't easy, but I really think this is best for everyone. We can tell the kids this weekend, start making plans for how to transition everything. Barrett stood up, probably planning to call Celeste with the good news. But I had one more question. Barrett, just out of curiosity, when were you planning to tell Marshall? He paused, hand already reaching for his phone. Well, Celeste thought she'd wait until after his big case next month. She doesn't want to distract him while he's preparing. How thoughtful. Celeste wanted to wait until her husband finished his current divorce case before asking for one of her own. That makes sense, I agreed. No point in rushing these things. Barrett smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in months, and headed upstairs to make his victory call to Celeste. I stayed in the living room, watching the clock tick toward Wednesday morning. In 6 hours and 17 minutes, my carefully scheduled email would arrive in Marshall Morrison's inbox. In 6 hours and 17 minutes, Barrett's affair would go from secret romance to legal warfare. But for now, I let Barrett have his moment of triumph. Let him call Celeste and celebrate their successful manipulation of the situation. Let them think they'd won. Because tomorrow morning, when Marshall Morrison opened his email and saw 44 pieces of evidence documenting his wife's affair, Barrett was going to learn something important about ultimatums. They only work when you're the one holding the cards. Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. sharp. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone buzzed with an email confirmation. Message delivered to Marshall Morrison. Game on. Barrett was still upstairs, probably dreaming about his new life with Celeste, when I heard the first signs that my carefully orchestrated plan was working perfectly. A car door slammed 3 houses down. Aggressive, angry, then another, then the unmistakable sound of raised voices. By 6:15 a.m., I was positioned at our front window with my coffee mug, watching better entertainment than anything Netflix could offer. Marshall Morrison's black BMW was parked in his driveway, and through their front windows, I could see silhouettes moving in what was clearly a very animated discussion. Even from 3 houses away, the body language was unmistakable. Marriage ending in real time. My phone rang at 6:23 a.m. Mrs. Walker? The voice was crisp, professional, with an undertone of barely controlled fury. This is Marshall Morrison. I believe we need to talk. Of course, Mr. Morrison. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. Are you available to meet this morning? I have some questions about the documentation you provided. Documentation. He was already thinking like a lawyer, which was exactly what I'd been counting on. Absolutely. Would you prefer to meet somewhere private? My office, 8 a.m. I'll send you the address. The line went dead. Marshall Morrison wasn't wasting time on pleasantries, which I respected. The man had just discovered his wife's 6-month affair through 44 pieces of meticulously organized evidence. Small talk was probably not his priority. At 6:45 a.m., Barrett finally stumbled downstairs, still in his pajamas and looking like a man ready to start his new life. "Morning, beautiful," he said, actually trying to kiss my cheek. "Sleep well?" "Like a baby." I handed him his coffee. "You seem cheerful this morning." "I called Celeste last night after we talked." "She's so relieved, Tess. She was so worried about how you'd react, but she's thrilled that we can finally be open about everything." Open about everything. That was one way to put it. "That's wonderful," I said. "When do you think she'll tell Marshall?" Barrett paused mid-sip. "Actually, we were thinking maybe this weekend. Give everyone time to process." This weekend. Perfect. They had no idea that Marshall had already processed everything and was currently preparing for legal warfare. "That sounds reasonable," I agreed. "No point in rushing." Barrett headed upstairs to shower, humming that same cheerful tune from yesterday. Meanwhile, I could see Marshall's BMW backing out of his driveway with the kind of aggressive precision that suggested someone was about to have a very bad day. At 7:30 a.m., I was getting ready to leave for my meeting with Marshall when Barrett came downstairs dressed for work. "Big day today," he announced. "I'm showing the Henderson property to some investors, then meeting Celeste for lunch to start planning how we tell the kids." Planning how to tell the kids about the affair that was about to become the most expensive mistake of his life. "Sounds busy," I said, grabbing my purse. "I have some errands to run this morning." Errands. Like meeting with a divorce attorney who was about to become my husband's worst nightmare. Marshall Morrison's office was everything I'd expected. Mahogany furniture, leather-bound law books, and the kind of intimidating atmosphere that suggested billable hours started at $500. The man himself was equally impressive. 6'2", silver hair, and the cold blue eyes of someone who'd spent 20 years destroying marriages for a living. "Mrs. Walker," he said, shaking my hand with a grip that could crack walnuts. "Thank you for coming, and thank you for the information. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "I'm not." His smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I prefer knowing exactly what I'm dealing with. Now, I have some questions about your husband and my wife. For the next hour, Marshall Morrison interrogated me with the precision of a prosecutor and the thoroughness of an auditor. Every detail of Barrett and Celeste's affair, every piece of evidence I'd collected, every timeline discrepancy that could be exploited in court. Your documentation is impressive, he said finally. Most people don't think to collect this level of evidence. I wanted to be thorough. It shows. Based on what you've provided, I can build a case that will make your husband and my wife very, very sorry they decided to betray their families. Marshall leaned back in his chair, and for the first time that morning, he looked almost pleased. Mrs. Walker, are you familiar with New Jersey divorce law? Not particularly. Allow me to educate you. New Jersey recognizes adultery as grounds for divorce, which means your husband's affair can significantly impact asset division, alimony, and custody arrangements. Furthermore, my wife's affair means she's about to lose everything. He pulled out a legal pad and started sketching what looked like a battle plan. Here's what's going to happen. This afternoon, I'm filing for divorce and requesting emergency custody of my children. The evidence you've provided will support claims of emotional abandonment and moral unfitness. Celeste will be out of our house by Friday. And Barrett? Marshall's smile turned predatory. Your husband made a critical error in judgment. He chose to have an affair with the wife of a divorce attorney who specializes in high-asset cases and has a 20-year track record of destroying cheating spouses. What does that mean practically? It means Barrett Walker is about to discover that affairs have consequences. Expensive consequences. Marshall walked me through the legal strategy like a general outlining a military campaign. Custody battles that would drain Barrett's savings. Asset freezes that would lock up his real estate commissions. Social and professional consequences that would follow him for years. The beauty of your evidence, Marshall explained, is that it shows premeditation and deception. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a calculated betrayal conducted over 6 months. That matters in court. By 9:30 a.m., I was walking out of Marshall Morrison's office with a clear understanding of what was about to happen to my husband and his mistress. Marshall had given me his card and instructions to call if I needed anything. Legal advice, emotional support, or just updates on how thoroughly he was planning to destroy Barrett and Celeste in court. I drove home through our peaceful suburban neighborhood, past the manicured lawns and perfect houses, knowing that by evening, Barrett and Celeste's little fantasy would be a legal nightmare. At 11:47 a.m., my phone rang. Tess? Barrett's voice was tight, confused. I just got the strangest call from Marshall Morrison. He wants to meet with me this afternoon about some kind of business matter. Do you know anything about this? Business matter. Oh, Barrett. No idea, I said. Maybe it's about the Henderson property? Didn't you say Marshall might be interested in investing? Maybe. It's just... He sounded really intense, and he specifically asked me to come alone. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about, I said, which was technically true. Barrett didn't need to worry about anything. He needed to panic about everything. Yeah, you're probably right. Listen, I might be late tonight. After I meet with Marshall, Celeste and I want to start looking at apartments. Apartments. They were going to start looking at apartments. While Marshall Morrison was preparing legal documents that would make sure Celeste couldn't afford a cardboard box under a bridge. That sounds exciting, I said. New beginnings and all. Exactly. New beginnings! The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. At 3 p.m., I was folding laundry when I heard a car pull into our driveway with unusual force. Through the window, I watched Barrett get out of his BMW looking like a man who'd just been hit by a freight train. His phone was ringing as he walked toward the house. Even from inside, I could hear him answer. Celeste? No, I just left Marshall's office. What do you mean served with papers? What papers? Barrett fumbled with his keys, still talking frantically into his phone. What do you mean kicked out? He can't just... Celeste, slow down. What did the lawyer say? I positioned myself in the kitchen, pretending to organize mail while Barrett burst through the front door looking like his world had just imploded. Tess! He called out. desperation bleeding through his voice. "Tess!" I walked into the living room with the casual pace of someone who had absolutely no idea that her husband's affair had just been weaponized by one of New Jersey's most ruthless divorce attorneys. "Barrett? What's wrong? You look terrible." "Marshall Morrison," Barrett said, sinking onto our couch like his legs had given out. "He knows. He knows everything." "Knows what?" "About me and Celeste. He has pictures, Tess. He has our text messages. He knows about the motel, the dinners, everything." I sat down across from my husband, arranging my face into an expression of appropriate shock. "How is that possible?" "I don't know. He said someone sent him evidence, but he won't say who." "Tess, he's destroyed us. Celeste has been served with divorce papers and kicked out of their house. He's asking for full custody, and he's threatening to sue me for alienation of affection." Alienation of affection. I had to admit, Marshall Morrison was thorough. "Barrett, I'm so sorry. That's terrible." Barrett looked up at me with eyes full of desperation and confusion. The worst part is, he seemed to enjoy it, like he'd been planning this for weeks. He had everything organized, every detail documented. It was like walking into an ambush. Because it was an ambush, Barrett. An ambush 6 months in the making. "What does this mean for you? For us?" Barrett rubbed his face with both hands. "I don't know. Marshall made it clear that he's going to make this as expensive and public as possible. He's threatening to contact my real estate broker, tell our neighbors, even file complaints with professional organizations." The beautiful thing about Marshall Morrison's strategy was its completeness. He wasn't just ending Barrett's affair, he was ending Barrett's reputation, his career prospects, and his financial stability. "Barrett," I said gently, "maybe this is a sign. Maybe this is the universe telling you that some things aren't meant to be." My husband looked at me with the expression of a man who'd just realized he'd been playing checkers while everyone else was playing chess. "Tess, I think I made a terrible mistake." And there it was, the moment I'd been waiting for since Monday night when Barrett had the audacity to give me an ultimatum about accepting his affair. "What kind of mistake?" I asked. "All of it. The affair, the ultimatum, thinking I could just rearrange everyone's lives to make myself happy." Barrett stood up and started pacing, running his hands through his hair like a man having a nervous breakdown. "Marshall Morrison isn't just some suburban dad, Tess. He's a weapon. And somehow he got hold of evidence that could destroy my career, my reputation, everything. Maybe there's a way to fix this," I suggested. "Maybe if you and Celeste ended things, if you both apologized." Barrett laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "It's too late for that. Marshall made it clear that this is war now. He's going to destroy both of us as publicly and expensively as possible." My husband sank back onto the couch, looking smaller and more defeated than I'd ever seen him. "Tess, I know I have no right to ask this after everything I've put you through, but do you think there's any chance we could work through this? Maybe try counseling?" And there it was, the complete reversal. 24 hours ago, Barrett Walker was giving ultimatums about accepting his affair. Now Barrett Walker was begging for marriage counseling. I looked at my husband, really looked at him, sitting there in our living room surrounded by the family life he'd been so ready to discard for a woman who was currently homeless and facing financial ruin. "Barrett," I said carefully, "are you asking because you want to save our marriage, or because Marshall Morrison scared you?" The honesty in his pause told me everything I needed to know. "Both," he admitted. "I'm terrified, Tess. Marshall Morrison is going to destroy me, and I finally realize what I was about to throw away." I nodded slowly, letting the moment hang between us. "Well," I said finally, "I guess we have some things to talk about." 3 months later, I'm sitting in my newly redecorated living room, same house, completely different life, watching Barrett load the last of his belongings into a U-Haul while our kids help him carry boxes. Turns out marriage counseling works best when both people actually want to be there, rather than one person using it as a panic room to hide from legal consequences. Marshall Morrison, true to his word, had turned Barrett and Celeste's affair into the most expensive midlife crisis in Westfield history. By the time the divorce settlements were finalized, Barrett had lost half his assets, his reputation, and his standing in our community. Celeste? She's currently living in a studio apartment across town, working at Target to pay her legal fees, while Marshall has full custody of their kids and their beautiful house. The beautiful irony is that Barrett spent our last marriage counseling session asking if there was any way to make this work, while simultaneously getting served with papers for Marshall's alienation of affection lawsuit. Apparently, you can't rebuild trust while your affair partner is texting you about which lawyer she should hire. Barrett moved out last month to a one-bedroom apartment that costs more than our old mortgage payment. The kids spend alternate weekends with him, which gives me every other weekend completely to myself for the first time in 12 years. Last Saturday, I got a pedicure, had lunch with actual adults, and went to a bookstore where nobody asked me for snacks or needed help finding their shoes. It was glorious. Macy and Knox have adjusted better than expected, probably because Barrett's big life change resulted in him being more present during his limited time with them than he'd been in years. Nothing motivates quality parenting like only seeing your children 4 days a month. As for Celeste, our paths crossed at the grocery store last week. She looked like someone who'd been hit by the reality bus. Exhausted, defeated, pushing a cart full of generic brands while I loaded organic everything into mine. She actually had the nerve to approach me. "Tessa," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "I know you probably hate me, but I want you to know I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." I looked at this woman who'd brought me soup while seducing my husband, who'd smiled and waved while destroying my family, who'd thought she could just rearrange our lives like furniture. "Celeste," I said with my sweetest suburban smile, "I don't hate you at all. Actually, I should thank you." Her confusion was almost comical. "Thank me? You showed me exactly who Barrett really was. And more importantly, you showed me exactly who I am when someone tries to play games with my family." I pushed my cart past her toward the checkout, pausing just long enough to add, "Oh, and Celeste? Next time you decide to have an affair, maybe don't choose the neighbor whose husband specializes in destroying cheating spouses in court. Just a friendly tip." The thing about betrayal is that it clarifies everything. All those years I spent being the accommodating wife, the understanding partner, the woman who made everyone else's life easier, that wasn't kindness. That was fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of being alone. Fear of discovering I might not be as nice as I thought I was. Turns out I'm not that nice. When someone threatens my family, my home, my children's stability, I become something much more dangerous than nice. I become strategic. Barrett learned this the hard way. Celeste learned this the expensive way. And Marshall Morrison? Well, Marshall Morrison earned himself a reputation as the lawyer who turned his own wife's affair into a masterclass in legal warfare. The kids are thriving. Macy's grades have improved since the household stress disappeared, and Knox has stopped having those mysterious stomach aches that coincidentally started right around the time Barrett began his late client meetings. Children know when something's wrong, even when adults think they're being subtle. Me? I'm learning things about myself I never knew, like how much I enjoy having control over my own space, my own schedule, my own life. How satisfying it is to make decisions without consulting someone who might secretly resent every choice I make. How liberating it feels to stop performing happiness for someone who stopped appreciating it months ago. I've started taking evening classes, marketing strategy at the community college. Turns out I have a real talent for understanding human psychology and predicting behavior patterns. Who knew? Barrett texts me occasionally, usually something pathetic about missing what we had or wondering if we gave up too easily. Last week, he asked if I thought we could try again once his legal troubles were resolved. I replied with a simple message. "Barrett, some bridges don't get rebuilt. They get replaced with something better." He hasn't texted since. The truth is, Barrett did me a favor with his ultimatum. He forced me to choose between being a victim and being a victor, between accepting disrespect and demanding better, between staying small and becoming dangerous. I chose dangerous. And it turns out, dangerous looks really good on me. As I watch Barrett drive away in his U-Haul toward his new life of weekend parenting and legal bills, I can't help but smile. Not because I'm cruel, but because I finally understand something fundamental about power. You don't get it by being nice. You get it by being prepared. 24 hours, Barrett had said. That's all he was giving me to accept his betrayal. Turns out, 24 hours was exactly enough time to end his. My husband thought he was picking up his future. Instead, he was walking straight into his reckoning, and I had the best seat in the house for the show. Let me set the scene. Tuesday, November 12th, Nashville International Airport, Terminal C. I'm standing at baggage claim, exhausted from 3 days organizing Charleston's wedding expo, when I see him. My husband of 14 years, Marshall Hawthorne. Dr. Marshall Hawthorne, holding a handmade poster board that says, "Welcome home, beautiful," with little hearts drawn around it. Here's the thing about Marshall. In our entire relationship, the most romantic gesture he ever managed was ordering takeout from the nice Italian place instead of the cheap one. The man once gave me a Costco gift card for our anniversary. He said it was practical. So you can imagine my shock when I see him with not just a poster, but an enormous bouquet of peonies. My favorite flowers that I've mentioned approximately 800 times always met with his blank stare and a comment about how flowers just die anyway. But wait, it gets better. I'm standing there, partially hidden behind a family reunion, watching my husband shift his weight like a teenager at prom. He's wearing the navy cashmere sweater I bought him last Christmas, the one he claimed made him look too fancy for the hospital. His hair is actually styled. Marshall Hawthorne, who considers running his fingers through his hair adequate grooming, used product. And then I see her. She comes running through the terminal like she's in a Nicholas Sparks movie. Long dark hair flying, designer carry-on bouncing, smile that could sell toothpaste. She can't be more than 28, maybe 30. She's wearing a dress, at an airport. Who wears a dress on a plane unless they're trying to impress someone? Marshall's face lights up like Christmas morning. He drops the poster and opens his arms. She launches herself at him, and he catches her, spinning her around while she wraps her legs around his waist. In the middle of Nashville International Airport, I'm standing 30 feet away, watching my husband embrace another woman with more passion than he's shown me in 5 years. And the worst part? I recognize the watch on his wrist. The Tag Heuer I saved for 6 months to buy him for his 40th birthday. There it is, pressed against this woman's back as he holds her like she's the only person in the world. They kiss. Not a peck. A full-on movie trailer. Get a room kiss that makes the elderly couple next to me look away. I should be crying, right? That's what I thought I'd do if I ever caught my husband cheating. But I'm not crying. I'm furious. And more than that, I'm calculating. See, here's what Marshall doesn't know. I'm Vera Hawthorne, and I plan events for a living. Not just any events. Luxury events. Weddings for Nashville's elite, charity galas, corporate parties where million-dollar deals get made over champagne. I orchestrate perfect moments for a living. I control narratives. I turn visions into reality flawlessly. And right now, watching my husband play out this airport romance fantasy with his pharmaceutical rep. Oh yes, I recognize her now. Lila something or other from hospital functions. I'm already planning the greatest event of my career. My divorce party. Let me back up. My name is Vera Hawthorne. I'm 42, and until 3 minutes ago, I thought I had a decent marriage. We live in a gorgeous colonial in Forest Hills, one of Nashville's most exclusive gated communities. I drive a paid-off Mercedes GLE. We have dinner parties. We're country club members. On paper, we're living the dream. We don't have kids. I wanted them once. Marshall always said later, when the practice is more established, when we're more financially secure. Eventually, I stopped asking. I threw myself into my business instead. Turned Elegance Events into Nashville's most sought-after planning company. Built something that was mine. Looking back, I can see when things shifted. About 2 years ago, Marshall started working later, going to more conferences, paying more attention to his appearance. I noticed everything. It's my job. But I convinced myself it was a midlife crisis thing. What a fool he thinks I am. Because here's what Marshall doesn't realize. I'm not just some trophy wife who plans parties. I built my business from nothing. I negotiate contracts with vendors who'd eat him alive. I manage bridezillas who make hostile takeovers look friendly. I've dealt with catastrophes that would make a battlefield surgeon weep, all in heels and a smile. Marshall Hawthorne has no idea who he's dealing with. I watch them break apart. She's giggling while he retrieves her luggage. They walk right past me, close enough that I smell her perfume, something floral and expensive, close enough to see the small Tiffany & Co. bag hanging from her wrist. Oh, Marshall. I pull out my phone and start taking pictures. Quick snaps that look like I'm scrolling social media. The two of them walking, his arm around her waist. Marshall loading her bags into his car, the Audi Q7 we bought together, that I make half the payments on. A clear shot of them kissing against the driver's side door. I take video too. Nothing suspicious, just a woman on her phone like everyone else. They drive away. Marshall doesn't glance toward my parking spot 3 rows over. Why would he? He thinks I'm landing tomorrow afternoon. He thinks he has another 24 hours to play house before his boring wife comes home. I stand in that parking garage for 5 minutes after they leave, and I start to laugh. Not sad, hysterical laughter. Genuine, this is actually hilarious laughter. Because Marshall has made the classic mistake every cheater makes. He underestimated me. He sees the woman who plans parties, who makes sure his dry cleaning is picked up and his bourbon is stocked, who smiles at his colleagues' boring stories and doesn't complain when he cancels date night. He doesn't see the woman who negotiated a 6-figure contract with Vanderbilt last month, who has personal cell numbers of half the judges in Davidson County, who knows exactly how much we have in every account because I've been managing our finances for 14 years while he played doctor. I get in my car, but I don't drive home. I point toward downtown, toward my office on Broadway, where I keep files on everything, every receipt, bank statement, credit card charge from the last 5 years, because documentation is everything, and I'm about to document the hell out of Marshall Hawthorne's biggest mistake. I'm not some passive victim waiting to be discarded. I'm Vera Hawthorne. I've planned events for governors, senators, country music stars, and Nashville's wealthiest families. I've coordinated weddings with 500 guests and million-dollar budgets. If Marshall wants to play games, I'm about to teach him he's been playing checkers while I've been playing chess. This is going to be the event of a lifetime. My magnum opus. The party to end all parties. And Marshall Hawthorne is going to be the guest of honor at his own destruction. I park behind the office building and take the elevator to the 3rd floor. It's after 7 on a Tuesday, so the building is empty except for cleaning crew. I unlock my office and flip on the lights. This office has been my sanctuary for 8 years. The place where I built something real. While Marshall was building his orthopedic practice and apparently his secret relationship, I was building an empire. I sit down and open my laptop. I pull up our joint bank accounts first. And there it is. A paper trail lit up with neon signs. Regular transfers to a Venmo account. Small enough not to raise red flags. 200 here, 150 there. But when I scroll back 18 months, we're talking over $15,000. Charges at restaurants I've never been to. Fleming's Steakhouse on a Tuesday when Marshall said he was working late. Distillery on a Friday when he had a consultation. Adele's on Valentine's Day when he claimed the hospital board meeting ran long. I actually felt guilty that night. Guilty for being upset he missed our dinner reservation. He told me the board ordered fancy catering, discussed budget allocations for hours. I believed him. Hotel charges. Not many. Apparently Marshall isn't even good at cheating. But there are a few. The Hutton Hotel last March. Thompson Nashville in July. 506 lofts in September. Then the real kicker. Tiffany & Co. for $2,847.82, dated October 28th, 2 weeks ago, on our joint credit card. You know what Marshall got me for our 13th anniversary? A spa gift certificate. To a strip mall day spa next to a Panera Bread. Because you work so hard, he said. I was grateful. I posted about it on Facebook with a heart emoji. Best husband ever. Meanwhile, he's dropping almost $3,000 at Tiffany for his girlfriend. I screenshot everything. Every transaction, every charge, every suspicious date. I email them to myself at a private Gmail account Marshall doesn't know about. Then I dig deeper. Marshall isn't tech-savvy. He uses the same password for everything. his birthday plus MD. I've known this for years, so it takes me 30 seconds to access his iCloud account. I'm in his photo stream. Hundreds of photos. Lila at restaurants, Lila at Centennial Park, Lila on a weekend trip to Gatlinburg. 3 months ago, when Marshall told me he was at a medical conference in Memphis. Selfies of them together at the Bluebird Cafe, Pinewood Social. All the trendy spots Marshall said were too loud when I suggested we go. Then I find the treasure, a text thread between Marshall and Rick. Rick Chambers, Marshall's college roommate, best man at our wedding. Marshall, taking her to the Gulch tomorrow. Finally pulling the trigger. Rick, about time, man. You've been talking about leaving Vera for 2 years. 2 years? 2 years he's been discussing leaving me. Marshall, I know. But the timing has to be right. After the holidays. Don't want to ruin Christmas, you know. How considerate. He's perfectly fine ruining our marriage, but God forbid he ruins Christmas. Rick, you're too nice, just rip the Band-Aid off. Marshall, soon. Just need everything in place. The apartment lease is signed, and Lila's excited about moving in together. Marshall has an apartment, a lease, in the Gulch, one of Nashville's most expensive neighborhoods. Rick, what about the house? Marshall, Vera can have it. I don't care. I just want out. How generous. Marshall Hawthorne, philanthropist. Marshall, met with the lawyer yesterday. He says as long as we don't have kids, it should be pretty straightforward. Rick, see? Nothing to worry about. Vera will probably be relieved anyway. You guys haven't been happy in years. Haven't been happy in years. That's what Marshall tells people. That we haven't been happy. Like this is mutual. Marshall, you're right. This is for the best. For both of us. Rick, when are you telling her? Marshall, after New Year's. I'll do the holidays. Make it nice for her one last time, then sit her down in January. Make it nice for me one last time. Like I'm a charity case. I sit back and laugh. Not a pleasant sound. Because Marshall doesn't understand. I'm not waiting to be discarded. I'm Vera Hawthorne. I've planned events for Nashville's elite. I've managed crises that would make grown men cry. If Marshall wants games, he's about to learn he's outmatched. I spend 2 hours documenting everything. Every photo, text message, bank statement, hotel receipt. I create a folder structure that would make a forensic accountant weep with joy. Then I research divorce attorneys. The best in Nashville. The ones who handle high-net-worth divorces. The ones who destroy cheating spouses. Victoria Blackwell is a legend. She's represented half the country music divorces in the last decade. Absolutely ruthless protecting her clients. I fill out her website contact form. Urgent matter regarding divorce, substantial assets involved. Evidence of affair and financial misconduct. Need consultation ASAP. I do the same for 3 other top-tier attorneys. Always have a backup plan. By 10 p.m., my phone has been buzzing. 5 missed calls from Marshall, 7 text messages. Marshall, hey honey, just checking you landed okay in Charleston. Call me when you can. Marshall, getting worried. You usually text when you land. Marshall, Vera, everything okay? Marshall, probably asleep by now. Have a great last day tomorrow. Miss you. Marshall, love you. Marshall, don't forget we have the hospital gala planning meeting Friday. Need you there. You're so much better at this stuff than me. Love you, miss you, need you. The audacity. The absolute breathtaking audacity of this man sending loving texts while at his secret apartment with his girlfriend. I don't respond. Let him think I'm exhausted and went to bed early. Let him think everything is fine. Because tomorrow, I'm meeting with divorce attorneys. Tomorrow, I'm putting together a plan that will make every event I've coordinated look like a child's birthday party. Tomorrow, Marshall Hawthorne's fantasy life starts crumbling. But tonight, I drive home. To our house in Forest Hills, the house Marshall so generously says I can keep. I pull into the driveway at 10:45. The house is dark. I sit in my car, looking at our home. The colonial with white columns I fell in love with 14 years ago. The azalea bushes I planted. The porch where we used to sit and drink wine before Marshall got too busy. I've built a life here. A good life. And Marshall is ready to throw it away for a 28-year-old who probably thinks Nashville is the capital of Tennessee. We'll see about that. I unlock the front door. Everything is exactly as I left it, Saturday morning. My coffee mug in the sink, the book on the coffee table, the throw blanket on the couch. Home, except it doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like a museum exhibit. I pour wine, the expensive Pinot Noir Marshall bought for a dinner party, and sit at the kitchen table with my laptop. I have work to do, research to conduct, a strategy to develop. In 3 days, I have a consultation with Victoria Blackwell. I'm walking in with enough evidence to bury Marshall Hawthorne so deep he'll need a mining team to find his way out. The best part? He has no idea it's coming. He thinks he has until January. He thinks he's in control. Marshall Hawthorne is about to learn the most important lesson of his life. Never underestimate the woman you betrayed, especially when that woman makes her living turning dreams into reality and nightmares into unforgettable events. Wednesday morning, I wake at 6 a.m. and for 3 seconds, I forget my entire life is a lie. Then reality crashes back. Marshall thinks I'm in Charleston. Marshall is at his secret apartment with Lila. Marshall has been planning to leave me for 2 years. I should feel devastated. Instead, I feel remarkably clear-headed. I make coffee and check emails. 3 divorce attorneys already responded. All can see me this week. Victoria Blackwell's office had a cancellation for Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Fortuitous timing. I confirm appointments. Victoria Blackwell on Friday. James Patterson at Patterson & Associates Thursday morning. Linda Walsh at Westwood Family Law Thursday afternoon. Then I text Marshall. Me. Sorry. Fell asleep so early. Long day. Conference is great. Miss you too. See you tomorrow afternoon. His response comes within 30 seconds. Marshall. No worries. Glad you're having a good time. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Love you. Love you. The hypocrisy is almost impressive. I spend Wednesday working. 3 client meetings. Virtual, thankfully. Between meetings, I research Tennessee divorce law, community property versus equitable distribution, how courts view dissipation of marital assets, what happens when one spouse uses joint funds to finance an affair. Turns out, judges really don't like that. Tennessee has fault-based divorce. Adultery absolutely affects how assets get divided. Marshall has made every possible mistake. Used joint funds for his affair, documented it all on shared accounts, confessed his plans in text messages, bought expensive gifts for his girlfriend on our credit card. Marshall Hawthorne, brilliant orthopedic surgeon, is an absolute moron at infidelity. By Wednesday evening, I've compiled 47 pages of evidence, meticulously organized, labeled, dated, cross-referenced, bank statements, screenshots, photos, hotel receipts, restaurant charges, the Tiffany receipt, everything. I save it to 3 cloud storage services and email copies to myself. Then I print 2 physical copies, one for my office, one for a safety deposit box Marshall doesn't know exists. Thursday morning, I'm up at 5 a.m., first attorney consultation at 9. I dress carefully. Navy Brooks Brothers pantsuit, cream silk blouse, pearls. Professional. Put together. The look says, successful businesswoman who deserves respect, not falling apart and desperate. James Patterson's office is in the Gulch. Ironically, probably near Marshall's love nest. All glass and chrome. Very expensive looking. James Patterson is mid-50s, expensive suit, firm handshake. The kind of smile that costs $300 an hour. Mrs. Hawthorne, he says, I understand you're dealing with an urgent situation. That's putting it mildly. I slide my 47-page document across his desk. His eyebrows rise as he flips through pages, then rise higher, then practically disappear. This is comprehensive. I'm an event planner. Organization is kind of my thing. I can see that. He reaches the Tiffany receipt and his mouth twitches. Mrs. Hawthorne, in 23 years of practicing family law, I have never seen a case this well documented on day 1. Is that good? Very good. For you. Less good for your husband. I tell him everything. The airport, the flowers, the embrace, the systematic documentation. And your husband doesn't know you know? He thinks I'm in Charleston until this afternoon. He thinks everything is fine. Good. Keep it that way. He leans back. Tennessee is an equitable distribution state. But in cases where one spouse dissipated marital assets to finance an affair, courts factor that in. He used joint funds for hotels, dinners, jewelry for his mistress. That's dissipation. What does that mean for me? You have an excellent case for more than 50% of marital assets. We can argue he owes you reimbursement. If he fights you, we have enough ammunition to bury him. Validation floods through me. However, I notice you don't have children. That simplifies things. No custody battles. We're looking at asset division and possibly alimony. I own my own business, Elegance Events. Last year I cleared $230,000 in profit. His eyebrows rise. And your husband's income? Orthopedic surgeon. Around $450,000 annually, plus bonuses. So there's a disparity, but not massive. You're both high earners. That works in your favor. You're not financially dependent. That narrative plays well. We talk strategy, timeline, expectations. He explains Tennessee requires grounds for divorce. Adultery qualifies. Temporary injunctions to prevent draining accounts. Discovery, depositions, potential trial. But honestly, with evidence like this, most defendants settle. Going to trial means this becomes public record. His affair, his spending, all of it. Most professionals want to avoid that. Next is Linda Walsh at Westwood Family Law. Green Hills office. Less flashy, more intimidating. Linda Walsh is tiny, early 60s, looks like someone's grandmother but has shark eyes. She flips through my documentation at lightning speed. When I'm finished, she looks up. Do you want to hurt him, or do you want to win? What's the difference? Hurting him feels good in the moment. Winning means you get what you deserve and move on intact. Both are valid, but they require different strategies. I want to win. But if hurting him is part of winning, I'm okay with that. Linda Walsh smiles. Terrifying. Then we'll get along just fine. She's more aggressive than James Patterson, direct about what we can demand and prove, leverage the affair evidence, freeze joint accounts, hire a forensic accountant to trace every dollar Marshall spent on Lila. Men like your husband, successful, arrogant, convinced they're smarter than everyone, they make mistakes. You've documented all of them beautifully. How far do you want to take this? As far as I need to. Good answer. By 2 p.m., I have one more stop. The bank. I walk into First Tennessee Bank on West End and ask about our accounts. Sandra, the banker who's helped us for years, greets me warmly. Mrs. Hawthorne, what can I do for you? I need to understand our accounts. I'm concerned about security. Over 45 minutes, I learn exactly what we have everywhere. Withdrawal limits, protections to prevent one spouse from draining accounts. Turns out, not many protections exist. Marshall could theoretically withdraw everything tomorrow. Is there a way to require dual authorization for large withdrawals? Not on standard joint accounts. However, if you're concerned, you could open a separate account in just your name and transfer your portion there. And if my husband asks? Sandra gives me a look suggesting she's seen this movie before. Your financial security is important, Mrs. Hawthorne. You have every right to protect your assets. I don't move money yet. That would tip Marshall off. But I make note of everything. And I open a new business account for Elegance Events, in just my name, that Marshall has no access to and no knowledge of, just in case. By 3:45, according to my fake itinerary, my flight from Charleston is landing at 4:30. I drive to the airport and park where my car's been sitting since Tuesday. At 4:15, I text Marshall. Me. Just landed. Grabbing my bag and heading home. See you soon. Marshall. Great. I'll be home around 6. Want me to pick up dinner? Me. That would be amazing. I'm exhausted. Marshall. Thai food from that place you like? Me. Perfect. Look at us. The perfect couple. Coordinating dinner. It would be sweet if it weren't completely hollow. I drive home, following the route from the airport. I pull into our driveway at 5:20. The house is empty. I walk through with new eyes, seeing everything differently. I try to remember the last time Marshall and I were intimate. 6 months? 8? Longer? I convinced myself it was normal. We were busy, in our 40s, married 14 years. Now I realize things weren't cooling off for Marshall. He was just getting his needs met elsewhere. I pull out my phone. Tomorrow, Friday the 15th, I have my consultation with Victoria Blackwell at 3 p.m. The hospital gala is December 14th. And Marshall plans to ask for a divorce in January, after I've done all the emotional labor of making Christmas perfect. Well, I have news for Marshall Hawthorne. I'm not waiting until January. Marshall's car arrives at exactly 6 p.m. I force myself to breathe normally, relax my shoulders, plaster on my smile. He walks in carrying Thai kitchen bags. Same Marshall, same rumpled work clothes, same tired smile. It was great, I tell him, accepting his cheek kiss, which is all we do now. Exhausting but great. We eat Thai food and talk like everything is normal. Marshall tells me about a complicated surgery. I improvise Charleston conference details. How's work been otherwise? I ask. The usual. Lots of follow-ups. Couple of emergency consults. He drinks water. Oh, I need your help with that hospital gala planning. The committee meeting is Friday afternoon. You can make it, right? Friday afternoon. When I'll actually be in Victoria Blackwell's office, planning his destruction. Absolutely, I say with a smile. Wouldn't miss it. Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. sharp, I walk into Victoria Blackwell's office in the Pinnacle building downtown. The woman is a force of nature. Mid-50s, impeccably tailored gray suit, silver hair in a sharp bob, eyes that could cut glass. She's already reading my 47-page document. Mrs. Hawthorne, she says without looking up. Sit down. This is fascinating. I sit. Wait. Watch her flip through pages with lightning speed and laser focus. Finally, she looks up. Your husband is an idiot. I'm starting to realize that. No, I mean clinically stupid when it comes to covering his tracks. I've seen seasoned criminals with better operational security. She taps the document. This is gift-wrapped evidence. Did he take a class in how to spectacularly fail at having an affair? Despite everything, I laugh. He's very smart about bones, less smart about everything else. Clearly. Victoria leans back. Let me be direct. You have 3 options. 1. We file immediately. Use this evidence to push for a favorable settlement. You walk away with more than your fair share plus reimbursement. Clean option. Fast, efficient, relatively painless. What's option 2? Long game. We monitor activities, gather more evidence, wait for the most strategically advantageous timing, right before a major professional milestone. Then strike. Revenge option. Slower, more satisfying, potentially more lucrative. And option 3? Victoria's smile is predatory. The public education option. We file, refuse to settle quietly, go to trial, make every detail public record, every hotel receipt, every text message, every dollar spent on his mistress. It all comes out in open court where reporters can access it, colleagues can read it. Professional reputation takes a permanent hit. That sounds expensive. It is. Also extremely effective if your goal is making sure he never forgets what he did. She pauses. But what I need to know? What do you actually want? Revenge is fun, but not always strategic. What's your end game? I think about this. Really think. I want Marshall to hurt, to lose something valuable, to understand consequences. But more, I want to win. Walk away with dignity intact, finances secure, life ready for whatever's next. I want Marshall to know he made the biggest mistake of his life underestimating me. I want option 1, but I want him to know it's happening at the worst possible moment. I want the element of surprise. And I want him to understand I knew everything, was 3 steps ahead, and he never had a chance. Victoria's grin could light up a stadium. Now that is something I can work with. Tell me, does your husband have any major professional events coming up? I think through Marshall's schedule, which I've been managing for years. The hospital is hosting a donor gala December 14th. Marshall is receiving an award for excellence in orthopedic surgery. Black tie, all major donors, hospital board, local media coverage. Perfect. And you're involved in planning this event? I'm the lead planner. Elegance Events is handling the entire gala. Victoria actually laughs. Oh, this is too good. So you'll be there, Professionally, watching your husband receive an excellence award while knowing his life is about to implode. Mrs. Hawthorne, I think you and I are going to get along beautifully. We spend 90 minutes on strategy. Victoria explains we'll file divorce papers the week after the gala. Close enough that Marshall won't have time to hide assets, but far enough from the event that I maintain my professional reputation. With evidence this strong, most attorneys would advise immediate settlement, Victoria says. The alternative is trial and having this become public. Marshall's attorney will explain this. He'll understand fighting you is professional suicide. What if he fights anyway? Then we go to trial and destroy him. But honestly, men like your husband are cowards. They'll do anything to avoid public humiliation. He'll settle. How much can I expect? Victoria pulls out a calculator. I give her all the numbers. House equity, retirement accounts, savings, investments. She runs numbers. Conservatively, total marital assets of approximately $1.6 million. In a straight 50-50 split, you'd get $800,000. But given dissipation of assets and fault-based divorce grounds, I'd argue 60-40 in your favor. That puts you at $960,000. And the money he spent on Lila? That $15,000 plus? We demand full reimbursement. He pays you back every penny out of his share. $1 million. My share of a marriage that turned out to be elaborate fiction. When do we start? Today. I'll have my paralegal draw up initial paperwork. You sign documents, provide additional financial information, then we wait. You go back to normal life. Plan that gala. Smile at your husband. Play perfect wife for exactly 4 more weeks. Then, the week after he accepts his Excellence Award, we serve him with divorce papers. I leave Victoria's office at 4:45, feeling lighter than I have in days. I have a plan, an advocate, a strategy. Now I just have to survive 4 weeks. Marshall is home when I arrive, which is unusual for Friday evening. He's in the kitchen. Delicious smell from the oven. You're cooking? I ask, genuinely surprised. Thought I'd make your favorite. Chicken piccata. He's wearing an apron. When did we get an apron? You've been working so hard. Figured you could use a nice dinner. Suspicious. Marshall hasn't cooked in 3 years. That's so sweet. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just wanted to do something nice for my wife. We eat dinner, and it's actually good. We talk about the gala, the guest list, the award he's receiving. He's excited. I couldn't have gotten this far without you, he says, squeezing my hand. You've always supported me, Vera. Always been there. I don't say it enough, but I appreciate you. I want to throw wine in his face. I want to tell him I know everything. But I don't. I squeeze his hand back and smile. That's what partners do. We support each other. The next 3 weeks are a masterclass in compartmentalization. Days, I'm Vera Hawthorne, successful event planner, coordinating every detail of the hospital gala. Nights, I'm Vera Hawthorne, future divorcee, meeting with Victoria's paralegal, signing documents, planning Marshall's destruction. Marshall continues his double life with confidence. He's being suspiciously attentive. More dinners, more conversations. He even suggests a movie one weekend. I agree. We share popcorn. I laugh at appropriate moments. The whole time I'm thinking about how he's probably texting Lila. Thanksgiving comes. I host, as always. Marshall's parents from Kentucky. His sister Diane and husband from Memphis. I cook turkey, make homemade stuffing, bake 3 pies, play gracious hostess while Marshall's mother tells me I really should think about having children. We're happy as we are, Marshall says, arm around me. Besides, Vera's career is really taking off. Right, honey? Right, I agree, smiling while internally screaming. By December 14th, I'm running on pure adrenaline and spite. The gala is tonight. Marshall will receive his award. I will smile and clap and pretend to be proud. And then, in exactly 5 days, December 19th at 6 p.m., a process server will knock on our door. The gala is perfect. Of course it is, because I planned it. Schermerhorn Symphony Center looks spectacular. Lighting exactly right. Flower arrangements stunning. Catering impeccable. 250 guests in black tie, drinking expensive wine. I'm wearing a navy blue gown, Marshall complimented. You look beautiful, he said, and sounded like he meant it. Marshall receives his award at 8 p.m. The hospital CEO gives a speech about excellence and dedication. Marshall walks up, accepts his crystal trophy, gives a humble speech about how he couldn't have achieved any of this without his incredible wife. Everyone applauds. Several people smile at me. One colleague mouths, "Lucky guy." I smile back. I clap. I play my role perfectly. And I think about December 19th. After the ceremony, there's dancing. Marshall asks me to dance. We sway to generic jazz while he tells me how grateful he is. "This night wouldn't have been possible without you," he says. "You made it perfect." "That's my job," I tell him. "Not just the event planning. Everything. Our life together. You make it all work." I want to laugh. Our life together. The life where he has a secret apartment and a girlfriend. "We make it work together," I say instead. The evening ends around 11 p.m. Marshall is in such a good mood he's practically glowing. His award sits in the back seat. His career is thriving. His wife planned a perfect event. His girlfriend is waiting for him to pull the trigger on the divorce he's been planning. Everything is going according to Marshall's plan. Except it's not. December 19th arrives with cold gray weather that feels appropriate for ending a marriage. I've spent 5 days in surreal calm. The process server is scheduled at 6 p.m. sharp. Marshall will be home. I made sure by telling him I wanted a nice dinner to celebrate the gala's success. He seemed touched. "That's so thoughtful, honey. I'd love that." At 5:45 p.m., I'm in our living room wearing jeans and a sweater. Comfortable clothes for comfortable lies. When I hear Marshall's car. My heart pounds, but my hands are steady. Marshall walks in with wine and a smile. "Got your favorite Pinot Noir. Should I open it now or let it breathe?" "Let it breathe," I say. "We have time." At exactly 6 p.m., there's a knock. Marshall looks confused. "Are you expecting someone?" "Actually, yes." "Could you get that?" He walks to the door. I watch from the living room as he opens it to find a man in a suit holding a manila envelope. "Dr. Marshall Hawthorne?" "Yes." "You've been served." The man hands him the envelope and walks back to his car. Marshall stands in the doorway, staring at the envelope like it might explode. Then he slowly closes the door and turns to me. "Vera, what is this?" "Open it and find out," I say calmly. His hands shake as he opens it. I watch his face as he reads. Confusion, shock, fear. Petition for divorce? His voice cracks. "Vera, what? I don't understand." "Really?" I stand, crossing my arms. "Let me help you understand, Marshall. Tuesday, November 12th. Nashville International Airport. You, with flowers and a poster board, picking up your girlfriend Lila." The color drains from his face. "I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can. Just like you can explain the secret apartment in the Gulch, the $15,000 on hotels and dinners, the Tiffany jewelry on our credit card. Should I keep going?" "How did you—" He stops. "You saw us. At the airport. I saw you. I photographed you. I documented everything. Every text message where you told Rick you were planning to leave me. Every hotel receipt. Every romantic dinner. I have it all, Marshall. Every single piece of evidence." He sinks onto the couch, still holding the papers. "Vera, please, let me explain. It's exactly what I think. 2-year affair. Secret apartment. You were going to wait until after holidays to ask for divorce because you didn't want to ruin Christmas. Did I miss anything?" His silence is answer enough. "Here's what's going to happen," I continue. "You're going to read those papers with your attorney. You're going to see the evidence, and trust me, it's comprehensive. You're going to realize fighting me means all this becomes public record. Your affair, your spending, all of it. Then you're going to agree to my terms." What terms?" 60-40 split in my favor. Full reimbursement for every penny you spent on Lila. You don't contest anything. Don't drag this out. Don't try to paint yourself as victim. You sign, we divide assets, we move on. 60-40? Vera? That's not fair. Fair? I actually laugh. Was it fair when you spent our money on hotel rooms? Used our credit card to buy her jewelry? Lied to me for 2 years? He has no answer. Tennessee is a fault-based divorce state, I continue. Adultery is grounds. Dissipation of marital assets affects property division. Judges don't like when spouses use joint funds to finance affairs. So yes, Marshall, 60-40 is generous. If we go to trial, I'll ask for 70-30, and I'll probably get it. His hands still shake as he flips through pages. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. And the worst part? You were planning to keep hurting me. Let me plan Thanksgiving, host your family, coordinate Christmas, smile through it all while knowing you were leaving. Use me for one more holiday season, then discard me in January. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I read your texts with Rick. After the holidays. Make it nice for her one last time. Like I'm some charity case you need to humor. He looks up, tears in his eyes. I do love you, Vera. I'm not in love with you anymore. Then you should have divorced me 2 years ago, like an adult. Instead, you lied and cheated and spent our money while I kept our life running. While I planned your events and managed your calendar and made sure you looked good. I made you look successful, Marshall, and you thanked me by betraying me. I'm sorry, he whispers. I don't care. And I mean it. I don't care if you're sorry. I care that you face consequences. And you will. He sits there crying. Actual tears while holding papers that will end our 14-year marriage. I feel nothing. No satisfaction. No sympathy. Just cold, clear certainty that I'm doing the right thing. You need to leave, I tell him. Tonight. Pack a bag and go to your apartment. I'm sure Lila will be happy to console you. Vera, please. No, you don't get to please me. You had 2 years, to be honest. You chose to lie. So now you leave. Let your attorney handle everything. And pray I don't change my mind about keeping this quiet. Marshall stands slowly, like he's aged 10 years. What about Christmas? My family. Your family can celebrate with you and Lila. Or you can tell them the truth about why your marriage ended. That's up to you. He walks toward the stairs, then stops. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. You deserved better. You're right. I did. Now go pack. 30 minutes later, Marshall comes downstairs with a suitcase. He pauses at the door, like he wants to say something else. Don't, I tell him. Just go. He goes. The door closes, and I sit in the silence of my house. My house now, really. I wait for emotions to hit. The sadness, the grief, but they don't come. Instead, I feel lighter. My phone buzzes. Victoria Blackwell. Victoria. Process server confirmed delivery. How are you holding up? Me. Better than expected. He left. It's over. Victoria. The beginning of the end. His attorney will be in touch within 48 hours. Get ready for negotiation. Me. I'm ready. The next weeks are a blur of legal meetings. Marshall's attorney, a tired-looking man named Gerald, contacts Victoria on December 21st. They schedule a meeting for December 27th. I spend Christmas alone. Intentionally alone. I order Chinese takeout, watch rom-coms. Don't think about Marshall or Lila or the life I thought I had. The negotiation meeting is surprisingly painless. Marshall doesn't want to fight. His attorney lays out a counteroffer, 55-45 split, and he'll reimburse the $15,000 over 2 years instead of immediately. Victoria looks at me. I nod. Acceptable. But I want it in writing that he admits to the affair and dissipation of assets. No ambiguity? Gerald sighs. Marshall nods miserably. We hammer out details. I keep the house. I'll refinance to buy out his equity. We split retirement accounts according to percentage. Investment accounts get divided. I get the Mercedes, he keeps the Audi. By January 15th, we have a signed settlement. By February 3rd, the divorce is finalized. 14 years of marriage ended with a judge's signature. I walk out of the courthouse that cold February morning as Vera Hawthorne, though I'm already planning to legally change back to Vera Caldwell. Fresh start, clean slate. My phone buzzes with an unknown number. Unknown. I hope you're happy. You destroyed his life. Lila. Probably watching Marshall deal with fallout and deciding I'm the villain. I delete the message without responding. She's not worth my time. 6 months later, I'm in my renovated home office. I turned Marshall's old study into workspace for elegance events. When my phone rings, Vera Caldwell speaking. Ms. Caldwell, this is Jennifer Davis from Nashville Lifestyle Magazine. We're doing a feature on successful female entrepreneurs in Nashville. Your name came up repeatedly. Would you be interested in being interviewed? Absolutely. The interview happens 2 weeks later. Jennifer asks about my business, growth strategy, memorable events. She asks delicately about my recent divorce. It was a learning experience, I tell her honestly. I learned I'm stronger than I thought, that I can handle anything life throws at me, and that sometimes the worst thing that happens turns out to be exactly what you needed. The article runs in September. The headline, Vera Caldwell, Building an Empire, One Event at a Time. There's a photo of me in my office, confident and successful. No mention of being anyone's wife or ex-wife. Just me, my business, my achievements. The article brings 3 new high-profile clients. My calendar fills for 18 months. Elegance Events becomes the most sought-after planning company in Nashville. I hire 2 additional planners to keep up. I run into Marshall once, at a charity event I'm coordinating in October. He's there with Lila, who looks significantly less glamorous than at the airport. Turns out, being with Marshall in reality is different from being the exciting secret girlfriend. Marshall sees me, and his face goes pale. I smile, wave politely, turn back to my conversation with a potential client. I don't have time for my past. I'm too busy building my future. It's been a year since I discovered Marshall's affair at the airport. A year since my world fell apart and I realized I had to rebuild it. And here's what I've learned. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Sometimes the worst betrayal leads to the best transformation. Sometimes losing what you thought you wanted makes room for what you actually need. I'm not grateful for what Marshall did. I'm not going to pretend his affair was some blessing in disguise. He betrayed me, lied to me, wasted 2 years of my life. But I am grateful for who I became in the aftermath. The woman who documented everything. The woman who planned her revenge with the same precision she brings to weddings and galas. The woman who stood her ground and demanded what she deserved. That woman is someone I'm proud to be. My life now looks different than I imagined a year ago. I live alone in a beautiful house that's entirely mine. I run a thriving business I built from nothing. I have friends, hobbies, freedom. I'm dating, casually, discovering what I actually want in a partner now that I'm not settling. Last week, I planned a divorce party for a client, a celebration of her freedom after leaving a 20-year marriage. Champagne tower, live band, all her friends celebrating her courage to start over. She pulled me aside. You really understand this, don't you? The relief of getting out? I do, because I've been there. Any advice? I thought about everything I learned, about Marshall and Lila and divorce papers, and the moment I decided I wasn't going to be a victim. Yes. Don't wait for permission to demand what you deserve. Don't shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. And never underestimate your own strength. You're more capable than you think. She hugged me, tears in her eyes. Thank you. Because that's what I do now. I celebrate new beginnings, fresh starts, the courage it takes to walk away and build something better. Marshall thought he was trading up when he chose Lila. He thought he was leaving behind a boring wife for an exciting new relationship. What he actually did was lose the woman who made his life work, who managed his career, planned his events, handled his family, and asked for almost nothing in return. And he'll figure that out eventually. Maybe he already has. But that's not my problem anymore. I have galas to plan, businesses to run, and a life to live. A life that's entirely mine, built exactly how I want it. That airport moment, the moment I saw my husband embrace another woman and my world shattered, turned out to be the moment everything actually began. Not the end of my story, just the end of the chapter where I let someone else write my narrative. Now I'm the author. And this story, it has a very happy ending.